بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Tonight we'll get started with Lu Lu Wal Marjan في متفق عليه الشيخان, and we're still in Kitab al-Nikah. Tonight we're in chapter number 17. Chapter 17, the author rahimahullah ta'ala says, باب ما يستحب أن يقوله عند الجماع. حديث ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما لو أن أحدهم يقول حين يأتي أهله بسم الله اللهم جنبنا الشيطان وجنب الشيطان ما رزقتنا ثم قدر بينهما في ذلك أو قضي ولد لم يضره شيطان أبدا. Chapter 17 says, what is preferable to say at the time of sexual intercourse? Hadith 9:10 is narrated Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him. The Prophet ﷺ said, if any one of you, when having sexual intercourse with his wife, says Bismillah, Allahumma جنب الشيطان أو جنبني الشيطان ما رزقتنا اللهم جنبني الشيطان وجنب الشيطان ما رزقتنا. And if a child is destined that they should have a child, and if it is destined that they should have a child, then Satan will never be able to harm him. So this chapter heading is teaching us one of the rulings, one of the recommended, preferred sunnah rulings of intimacy. This chapter heading, we are not discussing a ruling prior to marriage. We're not pertaining to a ruling pertaining to or dealing with the contract or the walima or seeking permission, etc., who you can and cannot marry. But this ruling is pertaining to once a man and a woman are already married. And obviously, for any sound human being, adult, one of the main objectives of marriage and one of the most important aspects of marriage is intimacy between man and woman. So one of the things that the Muslim man or the Muslim woman, one of the things that should be said that they should do before fulfilling that act or performing that act is to make this supplication as a recommended thing to do. That's what's meant by the chapter heading, and these are the most important rulings that we shall discuss. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Now, let's move forward. It's the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, in which the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam says, أما لو يعني فيه حث وترغيب. هذا الأسلوب أسلوب حث وترغيب. أما لو أن أحدهم, only if you should, if you were only two, all right, when you go to your wife, when you wish to go to your wife, make this supplication. Make the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if you have a child, if it is destined for her to conceive and to become pregnant, the blessing and the fruit of this supplication is that a shaitan will not harm the child. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. We have explained this hadith and this issue with further detail in the chapter of marriage and our explanation of Bulugh al-Maram, which is on the channel. The chapter of marriage, it's been over a year ago, we finished and we were explaining this hadith. And Sana'ani, may Allah have mercy upon him, his commentary on this hadith was more extensive than that of Nawawi here. Okay. Alright, so that's what's meant by this. And it's a very simple, easy dua to make. Allahumma jannibni shaitan وَجَنِّبِ الشَّيْطَانَ مَا رَزَقْتَنَا. Allahumma, to the end of that supplication. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here regarding this chapter and this hadith, قال القاضي قيل المراد أنه لا يضره وأنه لا يصرعه شيطان. Okay, so before we get into what's meant by the supplication, a few issues. And that issue is, number one, should the man place his right hand upon his wife's forehead when he makes the supplication? Number two, what happens if the man forgets to make the supplication and then later on, while he's performing the act, he remembers? Can he go back and say something? Like you forget to say Bismillah before you start eating. Issue number three, if the man doesn't say it, can the woman say it? Or if the man forgets, can the woman say it? Issue number four, can both the man and the woman, husband and wife, make the supplication? Or is it specific just for the man? Everyone understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? These are all further issues pertaining to this this hadith we've explained in that in that in those classes. Also, are there other supplications that should be made? Or are there substitutes or substitutions that can be made? If a person can't say this, or it's too much, or they forgot, can a person just say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? Can a person say Bismillah? Can you say Allahu Akbar, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, A'udhu billah, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika? Mentioning Allah's name, asking Allah for protection. All right, that's the issue that pertains to this. Also, what's meant by when a man wants to go to his wife? When he feels the desire to do so? Is this upon or before penetration? When exactly does he make this supplication? Where the hadith says, Ya'tiya, go to his wife. Khairan inshallah. And most importantly, what is meant by this supplication? That a shaitan will never harm the child. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, quoting from his predecessors, some of the previous commentators, he says, Qila, some say, Al-muradu annahu la yadurruhu, annahu la yasra'uhu shaytanan. As what's meant by a shaitan will never harm the child, is that the child will never become possessed. The child will never ever become jinn possessed or shaitan possessed. And it doesn't mean that no harm will come to the child from shaitan, hands down. So that's one interpretation. And the benefit of that interpretation is obvious. And we know as Muslims in general, and Muslims who try to adhere to the way of the Salaf al-Salih, the way of Ahlul Hadith, we try to adhere to the way of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. We know from our Aqidah, from that which we believe in, is the unseen and the countless affairs and levels of the unseen. And from the unseen, in its countless levels, is the world of the shayateen and the jinn. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The worlds. And from the worlds is the world of the demons and devils. And we know and we believe as Muslims, based off of Quran and Hadith, is that there are crossing points. There are merging points between the human being, the insi, and between the jinni. There are times and places, activities and statements in which the two worlds cross and meet up. And as we have explained before, in most cases, the majority of the crossing is going to be done from the shayateen to the world of the humans without any type of, or without too many types of barriers. Whereas the human being is always going to be the one that's going to seek permission, that's going to request, that's going to call out to go to their world. And oftentimes is not going to have the ability to go to the world of the demons and the devils, but they're going to give him certain things, certain types of limited access. And in most cases, it's not even access to their world, but they're coming into the human being's world with things, with powers, with advantages. Everyone understand this? So the shaitan being with you, attacking you, your dreams, a nightmare, when you go to your wife for sexual intercourse, they're coming into what? Whose world? The human's world. Without your permission. Everyone understand this? They're not asking you, can I come and give you a nightmare and bother you tonight? Can I harm your child? Can I possess you? We understand or not? But for the human being, waliyadhu billah, who wants to practice sorcery or want some type of divination or knowledge of the unseen or curse someone or whatever it may be, some type of love potion spell, whatever it is, they have to ask for those shayateen to come. Waliyadhu billah, calling out to Satan, invoking them, offering things to them, begging them, lowering themselves, offering blood, sacrifice to them, right? Which happens all the time in sports, music, so on and so on and so on and so forth. So it's not an equal equation, and there's always going to be, what's up with the Tiyah, man? May Allah bless you. Amen. Say amen. Amen. There's always going to be a master-servant what? Relationship. And the servant is always going to be the human being. Everyone understand this? And from the things that the shayateen want from human beings, it's not too much. It's not much that we can offer them. But in most cases, it's going to be an issue of just humiliation and just the concept of worship, like ego worship. I don't need you. I'm your boss. I have more money than you. I have more power than you. I have more degrees than you. But I want you to be under me. I want to feel good. I want you to just serve me. You understand? I want you to be my flunky, my lackey. I want you to be under my feet day and night. And then obviously me being the boss, I have the power, I have the money, I have the ability to hire someone, to fire someone, right? You want that power and that influence from me. Understand? Whether it's getting rid of me, putting me on the side, etc. So the shayateen, the knowledge of lost things, lost possessions, future events, pre-decree, qadr, destiny, fate, right? The ability to hurt someone, causing a woman to have a miscarriage, right? Having someone get into an accident, whatever the case may be. Those powers, those abilities are in the hands of the shayateen, from that which they have the ability to do. They possess that. The humans can't fly. The humans don't have this type of speed. The human's knowledge is limited to what's in this room, besides a guess or previous knowledge, right? You don't know what's going on in this country, in that country, so on and so forth, in China, in Afghanistan, who, what. You don't know those things. 50 years ago, 500, you don't know those things, okay? So those types of powers, the shayateen have certain access to that, and the humans always want that, of course. And in most cases in life, human beings, they only want knowledge to do harm to other human beings, unfortunately. Most people, they have technology, science, wealth, just to become more powerful themselves and to put down further human beings. That's a fact. And then oftentimes in school, people make fun of someone who's smart, but they'll respect that smart person only if the smart person can what? Can do something for them. They'll make fun of them, smack them, beat them up. Hey, I need you to give me the answers to the test. Or they'll say, hey, leave him alone. This Poindexter, he's under my protection. And the only reason why that Poindexter is okay, because that Poindexter is helping them with the fraud, or with this, or with that. Other than that, they could what? Care less about them. Everyone understand this? So the concept of the shayateen having the trump card, them having the superiority of the human beings for the greed of the human being. And the thing that they want, the trade-off that they want, is the service and the worship and the humiliation. They get a kick out of it. It's fun to them. For the human beings, stupid and foolish, to fear someone who's made like they're made. To fear someone who's going to die like what? They're going to die. It makes no sense for you to make shirk. Tawheed only makes sense. But look at this fool. Look at him. We tell him to wear this chain, he wears this chain. We tell him to have these crystals, he'll what? He'll have crystals. We tell them to do this, they'll do this. Bring me this, do this. Look. They laugh. They sit back and they laugh at the human beings. And then when they offer more and more shit, more and more service, then they'll say, here's the location of this person. Or this is some of what we overheard is going to happen to you. Or superhuman strength, or whatever the case may be. Or this beautiful woman that you're in love with. Now she's going to sleep with you. She's going to be with you because we've done this and we've done this, so on and so forth. Are we understand this? Or these people that are married happily, now we've broken up their marriage and you can fulfill your jealousy. You understand how things work, okay? So we believe in the world of the unseen, and from that which we believe of the unseen world is as-sihru wal-mas, jazakallahu khairan, was-sara', okay? Is jinn possession, demonic possession. We also believe in the concept of shayateen. Even if they don't possess a human being, they can touch a human being. Put them in some type of trance or some type of way in which they touch them and harm them and bother them. Just like the ayn and the hasad isn't as bad as the sihr, but it has an effect upon you. So therefore, the first interpretation of this hadith, lam yadurrahu, no shaitan will harm him, i.e., lam yasra'hu, is that the child will be protected from jinn what? Possession. That's interpretation number one. Moving forward, he says, وَقِيلَ لَا يَطْعَنُ فِيهِ الشَّيْطَانُ عِنْدَ وِلَادَتِهِ بِخِلَافِ غَيْرِهِ. And another interpretation is the shaitan won't poke him at the time of birth, like all other babies are poked and pricked. قال وَلَمْ يَحْمِلْهُ أَحَدٌ عَلَى الْعُمُومِ فِي جَمِيعِ الضَّرَرِ. And he says no scholar took the interpretation is that they'll be absolutely protected from harm. No scholar ever said that. No one said is that this hadith means is that if you make this dua, then the shaitan won't have any effect or touch upon the human being. And obviously, how is this? The hadith clearly says, lam yadurrahu. And the word abadan is mentioned. No shaitan will ever harm him. How can the hadith be so clear and frank, and then a scholar say no scholar understood it to be absolute? One of the reasons behind them not interpreting it to be absolute is because of what we see. And that there are people who are protected, who are righteous, they make their du'as, and they still have issues and problems. And there's no way that the shaitan didn't what? Do any type of infliction upon them. And Allah knows best if that's even true. If no scholar took it absolutely, Allahu alam. Moving forward, wal waswasa wal ighwa'i hadha kalam al qadi. He says no one said that there's going to be no harm and no waswasa alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudur an-nas. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, that's another reason why they don't interpret it to mean that. As Allah says is that alladhi yuwaswisu fi suduri nas. Everyone's heart gets some type of what? Whispering, a little or a lot. Some of us get a little, some of us get a lot. Frequently, seldom. Some people listen, some people don't listen. Some people are conquered and overpowered by waswas, right? Thrown to the ground, body slammed and stomped upon by the waswasa, day and night, day and night. With regards to sin, with regards to wudu, divorce, takbiratul ihram, istinja, right? Making wudu, and the list goes on. He says, wal ighwa, and the attempt to cause one to deviate. No one can say that they're free and they're absolutely protected from the shaitan's whisperings. And there's never no temptation or no type of indulging that is ever offered to them by the shaitan. Everyone understand this? So these are some of the reasons why the scholars have, Qadi says that no one said that it's absolute. Everybody clear on this or not? Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Now, obviously, this is a long discussion with regards to a tarbiyah, making tarbiyah of your children, raising your children, educating your children, cultivating your children. What name should you give your son or daughter? When is the aqiqah? Do you circumcise a boy? Do you circumcise a girl? When do you teach them the Quran? When do you make your daughter wear hijab? When do you make your son pray? What video games are haram? What are they allowed to eat? Etc., etc. The raising of your child, the cultivation of your child. But from this authentic hadith, we can see that the true Islamic tarbiyah begins before the child is even thought of. The true raising and cultivation of the child begins before the child is born. Rather, we can go further than this, deeper than this. Before you even make this dua, is the type of woman that you marry and the type of man that you marry, right? What type of woman you're looking for. As we had just explained, a woman is married for 4 reasons. And unfortunately, one of the last of those reasons is marrying her for her deen. And not too many people think about marrying a woman for her religion. Whether that's the only reason, I'm totally unattracted to this woman. Totally. But she has an excellent deen. Or I'm attracted to her. She has her attraction, her charms, but the deen is the tallest thing, the biggest of her stats. Right? She give her 6 or 7, maybe 8, on a good day. Right? She get her hair done, mashallah. She get a 7.5 on a what? On a good day, Maybe mumkin 8. 9 and 9 to her territory, forget about 10. It's a fact. But her deen is what? Through the roof, right? It doesn't mean that we explained this. It doesn't mean that you marry a woman for her deen that she has to be physically a zero to you. And beauty is an eye of the beholder. That's a fact. One man's trash is another man's treasure, right? We're not here to talk about people's tastes and preferences. It's a reality, right, Sheikh Mahdi? Right? So the moral of the story is the proper understanding of this hadith. A woman is married for 4 things, right? She's married for her wealth. She's married for her status or her lineage. She's married for her physical beauty. And she's married for her deen. Okay? And the deen being the most important and the most significant of the 4 things that are the most frequent reasons behind a man marrying a woman, in most cases. There are other reasons, but in most cases, what? One of those 4. There are other reasons. A man can marry a woman because of her character, or because she helped him out with his business. She was there for him from the old days when he was poor, when he was a poor merchant on a street corner. Now he has an empire, a finance. He says, there's no need for me to get this one. I'm sticking with the one that was loyal with me, the one I can trust, right? The one who, right? Do we need to call some poetry on this or what? H, no street poetry? You sure? Inshallah ta'ala, huh? Bidnillahi ta'ala. So it doesn't mean that just because you marry her for her deen is that she has to be totally unattractive to you, okay? But the greatest of her features is the deen. And just because you marry a woman and you're attracted to her and she's beautiful, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have any deen. But that's not her what? The strongest of her features. You clear on this or not? All right? So the proper tarbiyah of your child, the best tarbiyah of your child does not begin with the aqiqah or the name or the Islamic school that you send your child to. But it begins with who you pick for your spouse. Who you choose to lay with. Huh? And then, what do you do and what do you say? How you feed your child. How do you nourish your wife? Haram wealth, licit wealth, or illicit wealth? That's a part of tarbiyah as well. As the Prophet ﷺ tells us, أَيُّمَا جِسْمٍ نَبَتَ مِنْ سُحْتٍ النَّارُ أَوْلَى بِهِ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. He says that any body, any chunk or piece of flesh that is nourished by illicit wealth, the fire has the most right to it. You feed your wife with haram, she gets pregnant with the haram, she breastfeeds with the haram, you're going to get a bad outcome. Moving forward. Khayr inshallah ta'ala. This hadith shows us, once more, like the previous chapter, is that Allah is not shy from the truth. And the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was not shy from teaching the truth. And that the believers should not be shy from learning that which they need to learn. And that Islam is not just a religion. It isn't just a faith. But instead, Islam is a complete and total system of everything that can and will happen to the human being, from beginning to end. Islam is a way of living and a way of dying, right? And it is not just a secular, nominal, marginal, one day out of the week faith. And that's what the kuffar and the mushrikun, that's what they want. And they want Islam to be reformed. And they want Islam to be stripped of all of its essential and vital vitamins and minerals. They want to turn Islam into junk food, as they have turned their religion into junk food. Fast food. A meal, something that you eat or drink that does nothing for your body. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy. It's, easy to come by. It's no big thing. That's what they want it to be. And they don't want it to be something that's hearty and wholesome. They don't want it to be a complete dining experience. From the appetizers, hors d'oeuvres, to the dessert. Everything, quality. They don't want it to be like that. They want Islam just to be a faith. They want Islam only to pertain to the mosque. Only to pertain to Hajj. Only to pertain to Ramadan. They want Islam just to be in the hearts of the people. That's it. As far as how you make your money, how you spend your money, how you dress, how you eat, what you do for a living, that's not Islam. That's medieval, or that's Arab culture, Arabian culture, or, that's fundamentalism, etc., etc., etc. And unfortunately, these people have found a great many people who call themselves Muslims to agree with this and to promote this and to pump this. And as we've said before, the most dangerous of all of this is watering down Islam, breaking down Islam, turning Islam to fast food, junk food, in the name of scholastics, in the name of a scholar or a doctor or an alim or a mufti. Every fatwa is to take something and reduce it, and what Islam isn't. And you don't have to, it's no big deal, so on and so forth. So we have to be very, very, very careful. And if you look at the major religions of the world today, they all went through major reformations. Major reformations. Christianity practiced today among all of them, Catholics, Baptists, Evangelists, Latter-day Saints, or whatever you call them, Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever they are, is nothing like how it was then. And that's because they took bricks out of the wall. Bricks until it became not the wall's gone. And it's just a stump. The food, the nutrition from the food is what? Stripped. But it's called broccoli. It's lettuce. It's still, carrots. But all of the nutrients from the carrots were sucked out. Whether they were boiled out, stripped out, it's just orange. So we have to be very careful. We ask Allah to protect us from that. Let's move on to the next chapter. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, Babu jawazi jima'i أو جماعه امرأته في قبلها من قدامها ومن ورائها من غير تعرض للدبر. حديث جابر رضي الله تعالى عنه قال كانت اليهود تقول إذا جامعها من ورائها جاء الولد أحولا فنزلت نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أن شئتم. Chapter 18 says, and it's like last week's class, is going to require a bit of maturity. Inshallah, if you're lacking maturity, or if you're going to laugh or giggle or find something nasty or disgusting, parental discretion or is advised. Inshallah ta'ala. Explicit lyrics. You have your little kid, you have no business listening to this. Okay? But it says, one is allowed to have sexual intercourse with his wife from the front or behind, avoiding the anus. Hadith 911 is narrated Jabir radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. Jews used to say, if one has sexual intercourse with his wife from the back, then she would deliver a squint-eyed child. So this verse was revealed. Your wives are a tilth for you. So go to your tilth when or how you will. Okay, what's meant by this chapter, like the previous chapter, is one of the rulings, meaning something that's, what do we mean when we say one of the rulings? At the moment we say one of the rulings, what is automatically included?
More rulings.
No. The moment the word rulings are mentioned, one of the rulings, what are the following possibilities?
Prohibition. Yes.
Prohibition. Permissibility. Recommendation. Karaha. It's disliked. It's mubah, unprescribed. Do it if you want to. Don't do it if you want to. So the moment we're discussing anything in a class, and we say this hadith, this verse, this fatwa is pertaining to one of the rulings. So before the sentence is finished, you automatically have in front of you how many rows? One of those rulings is going to be next, right? Is that it's haram to do this? It's mandatory to do that? It's preferred to do this? It's wahakada, right? So this chapter heading deals with one of the rulings of intimacy. The previous chapter was dealing with a ruling that was what? Recommended. Mustahab. Recommended to say, and this chapter heading deals with a ruling which is haram. Something which is unlawful. And that is, a man is prohibited from having anal sex with his wife. Period. That's ruling number one. Anal sex in Islam is haram. Number two is to remove any confusion or any room or for any type of doubt or lack of clarity, is that the position and the direction is insignificant. But the only thing which is significant is the actual place of penetration. Front, back, this, that, none of that matters as long as it's like that. Because a person may say, well, if you're doing it in this position, doesn't that automatically mean? Or one may say the reason why it's haram because you're imitating this or you're imitating that or so on and so forth. So to make things clear is that front, back matters what? As long as that is the place of penetration. Okay, That's what's meant by this chapter heading. And it's not mentioned in this chapter heading the severity or the gravity of that act. And as is explained in many other hadiths and many other athar, is that is a major sin. It's from the kaba'ir for man to enjoy or to fall into anal sex with his wife. Now, one may ask the question, if it's haram for a man to have anal sex with his lawful wife, then what do you think is the ruling of sodomy and homosexuality with two men? How could that possibly be permissible? But those people who support same-sex love, same-sex marriage, homosexuality, they've covered their tracks. Some of them are a little smarter than the rest of the pack. And they say, and you can find this without any shyness, they'll say, we agree that sodomy is unlawful. It's haram. But there's nothing wrong with the man to be with the man. You know, they can kiss, they can hug, they can, touch with each other. As long as it's what? As long as they're not buggers. As long as they're not committing buggery. Tayyib, you ever been called a bugger by somebody, a British person? That's what they're calling you, basically. Or some people may even say it in English. Say you bugger, right? They're basically calling you a such and such, a sodomite, right? Tayyib. Now, and then there are those who say, deeper than that, worse than that, there are those who say, rather, it is the sodomy that is haram is a man being raped or a man raping someone. That's it. As far as if two men willingly come with each other and perform that act, it's no sin. And the people of Lut, the story of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam and Ibrahim, okay, what's mentioned in the Quran and Kareem, that's only pertaining to the men that were highway robbers. They were robbing people and they were raping people. And raping a man is not the same as a man willingly loving another man. Okay? Now, regardless of the specific answers to all of these different specious arguments, which aren't even specious, but just the fact that just use a little bit of common sense. This is your wife who's a female. You can't do that. How could there be any room for discussion with a what? With a male. Something isn't adding up. All right, let alone the other ayat and hadith with regards to lowering your gaze. And a man is not to look at another man's private area without any sexual intention, like a football team or a basketball team. And that's another problem of professional sports. What are you going to do in their locker room? They're walking around naked. Are you going to be a Muslim with your gaze down with a towel on? They're going to make fun of you. They're going to say, what's wrong with you? Are you missing something down there? Are you this? It's not going to work. The guys are jumping around in the locker room, laughing, joking, this and that, half naked, and you're the Muslim guy with the robe on, Is it going to work, Ahmed? Something. Maybe. Some brothers may play those sports in college, but in most cases, it's going to be some harassment, some difficulty that you're going to find. Something is wrong with you. Why do you think you're better than everybody else? You're afraid to show yourself? You're going to run into some friction. That's a fact. So if you can't look at another man's awda without any sexual desire, how in the world is a mufti or a doctor, a so-called academic, going to say two men can share love? And there's no prohibition in Quran and Sunnah for homosexuality. La ilaha illallah. All right, so this is very sad and unfortunate state in which we live. Okay, what's important is that this is an unlawful act. And as it's mentioned in other ahadith, that this is a major sin. A major sin. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Also, from the issues that pertain to this chapter heading are the different sexual positions. Now notice in the beginning here, only two positions are mentioned. It says min quddamiha, from in front. And then it says woman wara'iha, and from behind. And it doesn't mention on top. And that is a discussion among some Islamic scholars. And some of them hold the view is that a woman should not be on top of a man. And there are reasons why they say that, whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether that's mentioned in the Quran and the Hadith. What's important is some scholars, they hold the view that that's a position a woman should not be in. And a man should always be on top, front, or back. Okay? And notice here in the chapter heading, it didn't mention on top. But it only mentioned what? Front or back. Everybody clear on this or not? Khair, inshallah. Moving forward. So the hadith tells us, as narrated by Jabir radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, is that there were Jews, i.e., and they used to have some things that they believed and said, whether it came from their scriptures, whether it came from their holy books or their learned men, or whether it was just a bid'ah, just made up, or whether it was just a superstition. If a man has intercourse with his wife in that manner, then the child will come out harmed. And that is, the child will be ahwal, squinty eyes, cross-eyed, or whatever the case may be. So upon these Jews saying this, Allah Azza wa Jal abolished this superstition and this falsehood by sending down the Quranic revelation. Your women are your gardens. They're your farmlands. They're your patches of land. You are to sow your seeds, plant, dig, this and that. And there are other discussions with regards to that ayah as well and other narrations. Let's read what Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says. And obviously there are other benefits of Sahih Muslim which aren't mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari. And from that is an addition to the hadith that states, إن شاء مجبية وإن شاء غير مجبية غير أن ذلك في صمام واحد. قال رحمه الله تعالى إن شاء مجبية وإن شاء غير مجبية غير أن ذلك صمام واحد والمجبية بميم مضمومة ثم جيم مفتوحة ثم باء موحدة مشددة مكسورة ثم ياء مثنات من تحت أي مكبوبة على وجهها. And this word, the hadith says a man can have her mujabbiya or mujabbiya, meaning whether she's on all fours from behind or not. What people will call colloquially doggy style. Understand? It doesn't matter. This position, that position, front or back. That's the only thing that matters. غير أن ذلك في صمام واحد. The narration says as long as that is in one valve, as long as it's in one entrance, as long as that's in one hole. And obviously it's talking about vaginal what? Intercourse. So front, back, doesn't matter, because a person may think, well, if you're having intercourse in that manner, what the people call doggy style, isn't that supporting? You say no, doesn't matter. خير إن شاء الله. Moving forward. والصمام بكسر الصاد أي ثقب واحد والمراد به القبول. قال العلماء وقوله تعالى فأتوا حرثكم أن شئتم أي موضع الزرع من المرأة وهو قبلها الذي يزرع فيه المني لابتغاء الولد ففي إباحة وطئها في قبلها إن شاء من بين يديها وإن شاء من ورائها وإن شاء مكبوبة. He says here, and what's meant by the tillage or the tilthage is seeking a child. You want your wife to become pregnant. Some scholars as well, they use this as a proof for the impermissibility of oral sex. And they say that this is the wisdom behind intercourse, is for a woman to seek a child, for a man to seek a child. And other scholars, they may also use this proof or they may also use this ayah and this hadith for the proof or the dalil of the prohibition of contraceptives. And that men and women should not use birth control. They should not use condoms. They should not use the different things, whether it's inserted inside of a woman, let alone getting your tubes tied, whatever word or term is used. You don't understand this? Whereas you are supposed to seek the child. And Allah Azza wa Jal is the provider. As far as the hadith with regards to coitus interruptus, pulling out at the last minute, ejaculating outside, then we've explained that as well in Bulugh al-Maram. Is that lawful or not? Is that disliked or not? And what's meant by that? Dhaka al-wa'du sughra. All right, we've explained that in detail. So what's important is that is the place of conception. A woman is not going to get pregnant from anal intercourse. So therefore, vaginal intercourse is the only option, whether it's from the front, whether it's from the back, whatever position it may be. Moving forward, وَأَمَّا الدُّبُرُ فَلَيْسَ هُوَ بِحَرْثٍ وَلَا مَوْضِعِ زَرْعٍ وَمَعْنَى قَوْلِهِ أَنَّ شِئْتُمْ أي كيف شئتم واتفق العلماء الذين يعتد بهم على تحريم وطئ المرأة في دبرها حائضا كانت أو طاهرا لأحاديث كثيرة مشهورة كحديث ملعون من أتى امرأة في دبرها. قال أصحابنا لا يحل الوطء في الدبر في شيء من الآدميين ولا غيرهم من الحيوان في حال من الأحوال والله أعلم. He says, as far as the anus, then it isn't the place of tillage. It isn't the place of tilth. It's not a place of laying or planting any seeds. And what's meant by أَنَّ شِئْتُمْ كَيْفَ شِئْتُمْ. The ulama, he says, وَاتَّفَقَ, they agree. He says, مَنْ يُعْتَدُّ, those whose agreement and those whose differing matters. يعني أن هناك من يخالف ولكن في هذه المسألة لا يعتد بقوله وبخلافه. هذا معنى كلامه. انتبه. طيب. He says the scholars agree, those the significant scholars, they agree is that anal sex is unlawful, whether she's in a state of menstruation or whether she's in a pure state. Because another person may say, well, my wife is menstruating, what am I supposed to do? So it says haram, period. And there are other hadith that we've explained as well with regards to what the Prophet ﷺ used to do and what he allowed the people to do when a woman was menstruating. Meaning is that a man can enjoy his wife, he can touch his wife, he can be with his wife, he can kiss his wife, etc., even if she's menstruating. And that is another proof or the counter argument for those who hold the permissibility of oral sex. Whereas you don't have to seek a child just to enjoy your wife. It's clear proof that the Prophet ﷺ used to be with his wives when they were menstruating. And it's haram to be with a menstruating woman. فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ. All right? Arguments for and what? Against. What's important is the mental training. All right? And as a student of knowledge, cultivating yourself is that you always, أنت دائما تدرب نفسك وعقلك على المقارنة. على الفرضيات, على الإجابات. You always look at the proofs and evidences. How the proofs and evidences are used. الدلالات. ما وجه الدلالة؟ ما الشاهد في الآية؟ ما الشاهد في الحديث؟ ما صحة الحديث؟ ما قال أهل العلم في هذا الحديث؟ تصحيحا وتضعيفا. نعم. البحث والنظر. نعم. طيب. هذه مرحلة أو مرتبة. بعد ذلك بعد أن ثبت الرواية أو ضعفتها فانظر في دلالتها ومن قال بها. وعلق دائما وأبدا الكلام في الفقه المقارن بين الأصول والقواعد. تطبق ما درسته نظريا في الأصول. الدراسة النظرية الآن وقت التطبيق. وهكذا. All right. He then says, and there are many authentic hadiths, there are many well-known hadiths that prove this, such as the hadith that states, a man who has anal sex with his wife or any woman is cursed. And once again, if that is the narration pertaining to a man who has anal sex with a woman, what do you think is the case of a man with a man? What do you think his curse will be like? Moving forward, he then states, the Shafi'i scholars say, no anal intercourse is lawful with any creation. Man, woman, animal. And that's an interesting point. Is that place, according to these scholars, is something which has no type of usage whatsoever when it comes to intercourse. It's never ever an option. I would understand this. Moving forward, he says, في حال من الأحوال, in any instance, in any state. And of course, there are other issues and there are other dynamics of this, which we're not going to get into. We don't want the guys to laugh or, you guys have been good so far. But some of those other far'iyat, you may not be able to hold your composure. And we don't want to go that further. You have to study a higher level of fiqh to go into the other issues that pertain to this. All right, moving forward. قوله إن يهود كانت تقول هكذا هو في النسخ يهود غير مصروف لأن المراد قبيلة اليهود فامتنع صرفه للتأنيث والعالمية. شوف فائدة النحو الآن. شفت ولا لا؟ إن يهود. عرفت؟ طيب خير إن شاء الله. All right. We'll stop here tonight, bidnillahi ta'ala. And we'll save some time for the questions. There are other issues that are going to come in the next class as well. We'll mention this the last chapter, inshallah, the last chapter. Chapter 19. It says, باب تحريم امتناعها من فراش زوجها. حديث أبي هريرة قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا باتت المرأة مهاجرة فراش زوجها لعنتها الملائكة حتى ترجع. Chapter 19 says it is prohibited for a woman to abandon the bed of her husband. Hadith 912 is narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. The Prophet ﷺ said, if a woman spends the night deserting her husband's bed, then the angels send their curses on her till she comes back. Once again, this is another ruling of marriage and intimacy. And this ruling is the obligation and the severe impermissibility. Polar opposites. Is that it's mandatory for a woman to fulfill her husband's sexual desires unless there is a legal, legitimate excuse. And if she has no legitimate excuse and she refuses to sleep with her husband, she has fallen into a major sin. Everybody clear on this? That's what's meant by that. All right. What are some of the wisdoms behind this? What are some of the dynamics of this? There are many. From the wisdoms behind this is that if a man can't get the lawful enjoyment, where else would he get the enjoyment? Except in the unlawful. So from the wisdoms of this being such a severe thing is that it is a means of protection of one's chastity, of one's purity. If he has no halal outlet, he'll end up falling into the disliked outlet, the doubtful outlet. Everybody clear on this? So that's wisdom number one. And obviously, anything that is supporting this moving forward and anything that is preventing this from moving forward is going to be important. Anything that is assisting a man to be with his wife, a man to enjoy his wife, it is encouraged. And anyone or any person that's preventing a man from being in his wife is discouraged and condemned. Everyone understand this? It is a severe thing. It's not a small issue. So, if this pertains to time management, if this pertains to how you dress, children, whatever the case may be, right? All of those things are going to be included in this. This hadith or this chapter heading also goes to show the recommendation as well of polygyny, that a man should have more than one wife, because there are things that are going to happen and take place in which a man is going to be left without fulfilling his desires in the lawful manner. Even if she doesn't refuse, let's say she's sick, or in a state of pregnancy, or menstruating, or postnatal bleeding, or going through major emotional crisis, a need is still a what? It's still a need. And don't ever forget how philosophical you try to be and civilized you try to be and modern, you're still a creature. The human being is still a creature. And you still have base carnal desires that have to be fulfilled regardless of your brain and your heart and your soul. It's like hunger. It's not about this or that. You can fight the hunger. You can make jihad against your hunger. You fast, this and that. I won't eat the haram. I'll be patient. But eventually, your body has to what? You have to eat, like a captive. Captive who refuses to tell, who refuses to give information and intelligence to his captors. And they say, no problem. Let us know when you're hungry. Strong believer, inshallah, he'll be patient. I'll wait a day, 3 days, maybe 5 days with no food. He'll fight it, But eventually, what? In most cases, he's going to give in as a human. It's not an issue of believer and disbeliever, but it's not as a human being. All right, so they're relieving yourself using the bathroom. It's not but so long you can hold it, in which you have to relieve that. So a man fulfilling his desires is something which has to be done. And if it doesn't take place in a lawful manner, then pinned up water must what? Must break through. That's the bottom line, okay? So the concept of, if you look at all of the different things that can take place to a woman, and do take place to a woman, physical, spiritual, and emotional things. There are things, brothers who are married or unmarried, that a woman will go through emotionally that will prevent you from having intimacy with her. Her body is fine, but emotionally she's not there. Let alone the physical things in which she just cannot give you what you need. So the creator of the human being is all wise, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ya'lamu man khalaqa. He who is created, he knows. He is al-Hakim, al-Alim, al-Khabir. Right? He knows the secrets and the ins and outs of his created beings. Also, from the dynamics of this chapter heading, is the recommendation to avoid arguments and avoid fighting, and the need for a man to have control over his statements and actions, or what people call emotional intelligence. You can't fight and argue all day and all night. And fighting and arguing for the man, for the woman, is going to lead to this. I sleep on the sofa, you sleep in the bedroom. Right? And we never cut our noses to smite our faces. Right? I don't want to talk to you either. I don't care about you either on the sofa. Knowing well you're on the sofa tossing and what? Turning. You're like, oh man, is she gonna apologize? Did she send me a text message? You keep checking your phone. Oh, you ask the kids, did your mommy say anything yet? Did your mommy such and such? You feeling it. You hungry, you cold, but your pride gets what?
In the way.
Gets in the way. You cut your nose to what?
Like your face.
That's a problem. So the man has to have control. You guys listening or not? Don't let your pride get. It's like business. Don't ever forget that. Personal versus business, right? Don't ever allow your personal feelings to get in the way of professionalism. And your body has needs. It ain't about how you think or feel, but it's about the need. And the same applies to a woman. You need your husband to do something to take care of you. You can't say, oh, I don't want to ask him, or I don't care, I don't need you. Don't let your pride get in the way. And if you can follow this advice, no doubt you'll have a happier marriage. Beware of your ego. The ego is dangerous. It's evil. It will get in the way of marital harmony. All right? Khayr, inshallah ta'ala. Also, from that which pertains to this chapter, and it's something that we've spoken many times before, is that which is called, or people say, a man raping his wife. Marital rape. Can a man rape his wife? Does Islam support or allow or condone a man to rape his wife? We've spoken this many times before, and we've said all types of stuff about this before. Some things people agreed with, some things we caught a lot of heat for years ago. But at the end of the day, what? Who cares? We can only say what we feel to be the truth. If we're wrong, Allah will judge us. And if you can clearly prove that we're wrong, based off of Quran and Sunnah, you can criticize. Tafaddal, go ahead. And it's our job to take your criticism. But if you can't prove that, and if you come with emotions, then have a nice day. Right? There's nothing I can do for you. Emotions are one thing, Quran and Sunnah is what? Another thing. But to go deeper than that, and that is, does marital rape even exist? Is there such thing as marital rape? Will a man in his right state of mind rape his wife? Does that make sense to you, Sheikh Mahdi? What man is going to force his wife to have sex with him? Why? First and foremost, what wife is going to not give her husband sex? She's going to, I'm not giving you no intimacy. Automatically, there has to be a what, Elias? There has to be a what? There has to be a reason. You agree or disagree? Has to be some reason, right or wrong. But there's no way everything is right, perfect. No. Makes sense or not? I'm tired. I'm busy. I'm mad at you. No problem. You cheated on me, blah, 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 blah. You got another, whatever the issue is, right? My body is aching. I'm sick. My period came. Whatever it is, it's going to have to be what? Some reason. And what man in his right state of mind is just going to have his wife tell him no with no reason or excuse and say, I don't care what you say, I'm taking it. Does that sound plausible to you? Have you ever seen that in real life? Have you ever heard that before? Have you ever come across that? Have you ever seen an actual example of a man who's mentally sane and a wife who has no reason, so on and so forth, and he just rapes his wife? And he's gonna, he's enjoying the intimacy, he's relieving him. Does that exist? In most cases, 99% of the time, if there's marital rape, there's something that wasn't mentioned. He's off mentally, right? She had an excuse, but it doesn't add up. Rather, in most cases, if a man tries to go to his wife and she's fronting on him, right? She's acting funny, oh, she's little, she rolls over, she acts like she's asleep. You ain't asleep. I know you're just up. You're just looking at your phone, right? She act like she's, I'm tired. She doesn't want to be with him. In most cases, the man in his right mind is going to get what? He's going to get turned off or not. He's going to lose the desire, right? We can agree with this or not. In most cases, she just, I'm not, we had an argument. I'm still upset with you. Whatever the case may be. And she's telling him, cold shoulder, Or even if it's just dry, basic, like, just hurry up, handle your business. What's the chances of a man really, really going forward with that? It's no different than cooking. Your wife is mad with you, she's upset with you, she gives you some basic, bland type of food. It's in the microwave. You understand? Versus the oven is on. Your favorite meal I made for you. You get the point I'm trying to make? So many times we've said this before, they make monsters. They create monsters from thin air. They make these big, gigantic nightmares that really are smoke screens. There's a big, gigantic shadow of a small, tiny dog. If any dog is even there, barking and threatening to bite you. So I would like to see marital rape. Not the act, but I'm talking about the actual, you understand? Just like I would like to see Islam supporting domestic abuse. For a man to come home mad, drunk, angry, and slap his wife around. And then say, Walati, recite the Quran in Surah An-Nisa. I would like to see that. I would like to see a man beating his wife up and then quoting the Quran. I've not yet to see that in my life. I've heard people say this. Islam supports domestic abuse, beating up women, battering women, abusing women. The Quran clearly says, beat them, hit them. But I've never seen it. Have you, Elias? Sheikh Mahdi, you ever seen that? Have you ever seen somebody quoting the Quran beating his wife before? Have you ever seen a man beating his wife? Regardless, period. Have you ever seen that in an Islamic sense? Not somebody abusing a woman. Billah. So the kuffar, unfortunately, they make these things and they create these things, and then they have the weak-minded Muslims and the munafiqs from among the Muslims who follow them. And then they make it this big thing which doesn't even exist, like a no-strings-attached marriage. We just asked about in Kansas City. What is a no-strings-attached marriage? What does that mean? No strings attached. Can you make sense out of that? There's no strings. Is that even a marriage? Is there such thing as a girlfriend with your no strings attached? If you don't pay for her, if you don't provide for her, if you don't give her a house, you have to give her what? Something. You got to come see me. You got to buy me something. You got to do this for me. You got to take me out on a date. There's some type of what? You get what I'm trying to say? A little bit of strings or what? Strong strings or weak strings, but it has to be what? So maybe somebody's using the term loosely. Maybe they mean an unconventional marriage. A woman lives in a different country. The man doesn't pay her rent. Man doesn't pay her mortgage. Maybe. But the term itself is what? It doesn't exist. Wallahu ta'ala. Khair inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward, the hadith of Abu Hurairah clearly proves is that the angels will curse her until she returns. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding this hadith, هذا دليل على تحريم امتناعها من فراشه لغير عذر شرعي. ليس الحيض بعذر في الامتناع لأن له حقا في الاستمتاع بها فوق الإزار. The hadith proves is that it's unlawful for a woman to avoid her husband's bed unless she has a legitimate excuse, as we just said. And notice how the hadith says his bed. Meaning the more you own, the more you provide, the more you pay, the greater your role and respect is. The less you pay for, the less you provide, the less you give, the lesser your authority will be. And this is something which is true even outside of Islam. Sheikh Mahdi, you the shot caller, you the boss, hands down. What does that require from you, Sheikh? Is that who's making the cha-chinging? For you to be the absolute boss, the HNIC, hands down. Nothing move around here unless it come through me, by me. I know about it. That requires what, Sheikh? Well, what does that require from you? If you the boss man,
You gotta be the boss. You gotta pay the cost to be the boss.
little or everything, half everything, and for you to have the full authority, right? And which you can throw in somebody's face, the clothes you're wearing right now, the shoes on your feet, the underwear on your behind, the food you ate, the water you just drank, the roof over your head, right? Now, unless a person is just totally outwardly wretched and ungrateful, that's going to slow them down just a bit. Rather, the wise person say, let me not bite the hand that what? Feeds me. Everything I got is from my dad, from my mom. And the first thing your mother's going to tell you, if you don't like my rules, then what? Get out. I'll pay the bills here. You're not going to disrespect my house. You're not going to tell me what you want to do. You're not going to bring a girl in or smoke or not clean your room, and I'm paying for you to play the video games. Some respect is required based off of money, cash rules. That's a universal statement. So if your wife is the breadwinner, she's paying for the stuff, she's buying the stuff, she may be a good wife. She may show you some respect and obedience, but in most cases, the instinct, her womanly instinct is going to come into play eventually. And she's going to say, how you going to tell me what to do with my money? How you going to tell me I can't go in my car? Or I bought you that. Or I'm the one such and such, right? Whose card you using? How you going to use my credit card for another wife? Right? You got married with my Apple card. That work, Shake? She called a company, cancel that hotel. You go to the front desk, what's wrong with my card? It was just working, It's my honeymoon with my new wife. They say, oh, sorry, sir, you had a problem with your payments. Well, what problem could it possibly be? The credit card people, they took it back, right? You're not going to run into that problem if it's what? If it's your card. Everyone understand this? So the role of the man is there for a reason. The man is supposed to own the house. The man is supposed to be the breadwinner. He's supposed to be the provider. He's not supposed to be the leech. He's not supposed to be the feeder. He's not supposed to be the one suckling. Right? And this is a sickness that many of us have, unfortunately. We want to be men, but we don't want to be men. Wallahu musta'an. We want to be the, men, macho, manly men, but we're not ready to make those necessary sacrifices. The physical sacrifices, the spiritual sacrifices, and most importantly is the what? The cash cream sacrifices you gotta pay. Nothing move but the what? But the money. As they say on the streets. Bottom line. Still nothing move but the money, they said. Not just what? Cash still rules. It ruled back then and it what? Still ruling on this one. Moving forward. I know what he says here. If a woman has her menses, that's not an excuse. She still has to provide the opportunity for her husband to enjoy her. And that's because he can touch her, he can do this from above the izar, the waist sheet, right? You can touch, you can do this as long as you're not vaginal penetration. Of course, anal penetration is haram, as we just explained. ومعنى الحديث أن اللعنة تستمر عليها حتى تزول المعصية بطلوع الفجر والاستغناء عنها أو بتوتتها ورجوعها إلى الفراش. He says in this hadith, it means is that the curse continues until she comes back to obedience, until Fajr comes in, or until the husband can, fulfill it in another way, right? Until she goes back to her husband's bed. قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم فباتت غضبان عليه وفي بعض النسخ غضبانا. Husband being angry with his wife, so on and so forth. The last thing that we'll mention tonight is advice to a woman, and that is, like we said before, don't allow your ego to get in the way, your pride to get in the way. Don't say it's your fault, or you started it, or you're the reason why I'm not giving you your rights. Your husband wants his rights. He wants his rights from you. A smart wife who wants to go to Jannah is going to submit to Allah. And she may even say, if it was up to me, I wouldn't do anything for you. I wouldn't give you anything. I'm not feeling you right now. But because of the sanctity, the sacredness of the hadith, tafaddal. Obviously, that's a rare woman, 2022. Most women are going to justify their act and blame it on you, which maybe it was your fault. Only a true believing woman is going to submit to the haqq, even if it tastes bitter, and if it's against her. And the same applies to a man. A man may say, I have to provide this, I have to pay for this. Even if it was up to me, man, I wouldn't give you a dime. If it was up to me, you would pay for it. You would go to the store, you would go get it, you would bring me the food. If it was up to me. But it's not up to me. And what would the world be? Where would the world be if it became up to us? I'll take your wealth, you take my wealth, I'll take your property. Where would we be if it was lawlessness? Right? So we ask Allah for protection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should knows best, and with him is all successful. Alhamdulillah. Rabbil Alameen.